Welcome to a 2v2 on MInsk Pocket. This game is going to be Dr. Destynova and Sagwa versus RunToTheSun and Symbiosis. Both of these teams are super skilled, very high ranked. You probably are familiar with the names, so I couldn't tell you exactly what rank these teams are, but I'm pretty sure both of them are in the top 10 for their respective factions, and if not, then definitely top 50. So this should be a pretty good game. We have Dr. Destynova playing as United States, we have Sagwa playing as the Soviets, Symbiosis playing as Ostheer, and RunToTheSun playing as Oberkommando West, which he happens to be number 1 in 1v1 as his faction, which I've probably mentioned before. So he's obviously very good at it in a 1v1 context. We'll see if he can translate those skills into this 2v2. We do have him moving up the left side, grabbing the munitions with his Sturm Pioneers and going with a double Volksgrenadier start. Meanwhile, over here we have Dr. Destynova going with a double Rifleman start, moving rear echelons down here for the strategic point and Rifleman following up at the fuel point. We do have RunToTheSun setting up his half-track over here by this fuel point, while a MG42 moves up from Symbiosis to cap. Looks like a double MG42 start from Symbiosis as well, which is very unusual. Double MG42 into a mortar, extremely unusual, at least in 1v1, maybe in 2v2 would be a little bit more effective, but normally you see the Ostheer player going for 2 or 3 Grenadier squads first, so investing very heavily in support. Team weapons and RunToTheSun will be filling out the infantry ranks with Volksgrenadiers. If we take a look at the Soviet player, we will see double conscripts into Special Rifle Command into Scout Car. So we'll see if that Scout Car is able to do any good work. We will note that there is no Kuba wagon on the field, which the Scout Car is generally a very effective counter to. Moving up here, we will note MG42 has suppressed some combat engineers. Second MG42 squad protecting the potential hiding spots, so that will definitely get forced away. Conscripts moving around the other side, doing some light damage to these pioneers. MG42 repositioning to suppress. Scout car moving up as well. This machine gun looks like it's been moved up to protect the victory point. Volksgrenadiers, however, also moving down. Scout car does a little bit more damage to those pioneers, and they will be forced away. Mortar being forced to reposition as well. Volksgrenadiers convince the scout car to back off just a little bit. And these suppressed conscripts will around the corner and make it away. Meanwhile, on the left side, Dr. Destynova has been doing some backcapping, a little bit of light harassment happening here from Volksgrenadiers. We'll also note reinforced steel barricade right there. Sturm Pioneers moving up into cover, forcing those riflemen into what looks like the building. But RunToTheSun's going to charge the building. I think that may have been a mistake from Dr. Destynova because there's only one window here on the left side. Sturm Pioneers may be able to force him out, although unfortunately one of the Sturm Pioneers remained on the south side of the building. And I meant one window on the west side. I don't know why I said north side. Meanwhile, over here, Scout Car continuing to do some damage to these units. Hasn't really sustained any damage. Hopping inside with some conscripts, trying to give himself that added mobility, and he's going to circle back around and head for the mortar. Looks like that machine gun is angled in such a way as to maybe hit that scout car. It got about half a burst off on the scout car, bringing it down to 66%, but now it's getting cleared very rapidly. It also perfectly covered the advance of those rear echelons, and it looks like it's going to make it away. And some Volksgrenadiers moving up. Even the MP44s on the mortar actually doing a little bit of damage to those conscripts there, but he's going to retreat it anyway. So now it's just up to these Volksgrenadiers to fend off this assault. We actually have an oorah of conscripts moving in from around the other flank, although I think he may get caught by the base bunker here. I've never successfully flanked around that area, and may get suppressed. And just immediately retreats, actually. Okay. Generally, flanking with infantry around this route does not work because of the positioning of that base bunker, and whether that's an intentional map design or not, I couldn't say. If we take a look at this base, we will note that that's not the case. The base bunkers do not protect from flanks around this side. So, that's a bit of a map imbalance, actually, I think.
forces are neutralizing a sector. Heavy machine gun team, prepared for combat.
So after that assault, things have calmed down a little bit. Map control heavily in favor of the Allies. Axis needs to spread themselves out a little bit and take some territory. That is one of the dangers of going with only team weapons, I think, is that your capping power is not what it could be. Kind of just sitting by your teammate's medic truck with mortars. Obviously, it's going to make it extremely, extremely difficult for an assault across this long corridor to succeed when they're being bombarded by mortars this whole time. So it's a trade-off. Teller mine's going down here. If the scout car hits that, it's toast. It might even be a waste of munitions, but maybe not. Taking out scout car that early in the game can definitely be beneficial, even if it does cost a lot of munitions. There are certainly better ways to do it, though. For example, this 222 caught it horribly out of position. It is popping overdrive, although that overdrive doesn't really seem to be making it go very fast. Maybe that's just acceleration rather than top speed. Yeah, that 222 is easily able to keep up. And it is taken out, and the engineers are forced to retreat. Conscripts moving up here. Mortar fire on these Maxims is too much, and they're forced to retreat. There's a 50 cal from Dr. Destynova here on the left side, though. We also have riflemen moving around, possibly to set up a flank or just give vision. Looks like he's not really sure what he wants to do with those riflemen. Needs to keep them on the move, though. To dodge that mortar fire. 222 is actually moving to respond. 50 cal moving up with Lieutenant and rear echelon troop squad, but I think without his teammates' support, this push is pretty much doomed to fail. Oh, jeez. Heavy damage on those riflemen from the mortar. I'm not sure he's watching. There he goes. Grenade going in on that mortar. Pretty much pointless, though, as he can immediately reinforce, and without a teammate to support this, a push on this area, it's going to be pretty much impossible to unseat this defensive position without heavy artillery or indirect fire. Or heavy armor. Meanwhile, over here, more harassment by the Soviet player. Very nice, pushing some pioneers away. Oh! I think that 50 cal just got destroyed by a grenade. Probably also took some damage from mortar fire. And if the Allies continue to just take turns pushing, there's absolutely no chance of success here. They need to coordinate their pushes. That being said, they're doing much better than the Axis for map control, and they're probably going to be fielding some much higher tech units very soon. If we take a look at Sagwa, we will see a field gun cooking, so he actually has a special rifle command and a support weapon Campanile, so he will have access to both of those units, or those tiers rather. And Dr. Destynova still only has a lieutenant. Actually, no, he has a major, so the major on the field, he's probably thinking of going with a Scott, would be my guess, because a long-range anti-infantry unit would be very nice to have in this situation. But I also would not be surprised to see a Sherman. Either one, I think, would help disrupt these formations significantly. That being said, there is a pack on the field, and the pack is an extraordinarily effective counter to American armor. So it's all going to come down to positioning. 222 continuing to rack up damage. It is now Vet 1. Panzer Grenadiers hitting the field, moving across to retake some territory, and the Axis are starting to expand a little bit. Some counter-harassment happening here on the left side by our lieutenant and rear echelon troops. Major looks like he's about to set up a retreat point here, with an ambulance to support, as well as a fighting position to defend. So that should be good. Looks like it's turning into a bit of a battle of attrition here, as MInsk Pocket tends to, with both sides sort of setting up battle lines.
Get your men covering the approach.
Trying to respond as effectively as possible to pushes from all possible routes.
Stand
And the fighting generally focuses on the central victory point as well, with just harassment, light harassment happening on the flanks because of how long it takes to get to the flanks. If a strong push for either side fails, then you lose a lot of field presence, and of course, it's very important to maintain a powerful defense in these areas as well. Schwer Panzer headquarters going up here behind these trees, or from the default camera angle anyway. Protecting mostly this route and just this general area should a charge on the battle group headquarters occur, but it would be quite difficult for anything to punch through this massive wall at this time. Not that the Allied wall is easy to punch through either, with all of these Soviet weapons being set up, but however there is a pretty decent amount of harassment happening over here on the right side, Allies making no counterattack. Rear echelon troops. Harassment of the left is also about to fail, as Obersoldaten hit the field and Volksgrenadiers supporting force them to fall back. That was a bit of a waste of 20 munitions as well, but then again Dr. Destynova has 400 munitions right now and still no commander selected. Probably going to be then going for airborne and using a lot of P-47 rocket strafes. Maybe even mechanized though, for the 155mm artillery barrage, although I would be very surprised to see that, but he's saving his munitions up for something, that's for sure.
Tank support is here. Sherman ready.
Sherman does hit the field, and that will definitely be a solution to the 222. And if he can utilize the high explosive rounds effectively, it's also very good against elite infantry such as Obersoldaten. Schwer Panzer headquarters reveals itself, and that Soviet push is probably going to fail as a result. This field gun getting oddly close, probably going to be setting up a high explosive barrage on something here. Grenades going out, mortar taking some damage. High explosive barrage goes out, but the shot doesn't really connect. Panzer Grenadiers taking heavy damage, they need to be retreated. There they go. Possibly going to go down though. No, they do make it away. This mortar, does get cleared. Stern Pioneers moving up to support. That machine gun is now at Veterans 2. Smoke grenade going out to block the machine gun fire as more weapons move into place. Meanwhile, Sherman doing some harassment of the flanks actually. Probably going to catch that entire Volksgrenadier squad if he decides to chase. But it looks like he's too busy microwaving the fight in the middle here. Riflemen firing at Volksgrenadiers, but getting cut down by Stern Pios. They will be forced back. The lieutenant is also falling back as it looks like the Axis have taken the advantage here. Yep.
Sherman ready to go. Get down!
Sherman unfortunately did not chase and wipe that Volksgrenadier squad. That is a shame. Mortar fire continuing on this Maxim, no shots connecting yet. Lieutenant moves up to push away the Volksgrenadiers attempting to retake the central victory point. Sherman crew is actually retaking the north victory point. Machine gun suppressing those shock troops. It looks like we actually have propaganda war being used on those from the Sturmoffizier, which is a very cost-effective ability to be using on shock troops. Because they're heavy armor and extremely high damage. It's quite difficult to push them back with just machine gun fire when in combination with their smoke grenades, so propaganda warfare is one of the most efficient ways of getting them off the field without losing any manpower. High explosive rounds going out on Volksgrenadiers. Switches targets to Stern Pioneers though, although those Obersoldaten would be the perfect target. They're so clumped up. Rakettenwerfer repositions to fire at the Sherman, but the high explosive barrage from the Zis gun clears it out.
The enemy is overrunning one of our capture points.
And the Zis barrage is probably one of the best artillery options the Allies can field at so early in the game. So it's good to see that being used against this these Axis formations, but unfortunately it just hasn't been enough. 222 moving up to chase away a Soviet mortar. Sherman is now at about half health. Looks like he's going to try and get a little bit more mileage out of it before he pulls it back for repairs. Unfortunately, that 222 is just outside of range. High explosive round going out on the machine gun, but it doesn't really connect. Meanwhile, Rifleman chasing away some harassing pioneers up here. Looks like he's just going to let them escape rather than try to block and wipe the squad. Probably wouldn't have been able to anyway. More high explosive rounds going out here. The only anti-tank gun is this Rakettenwerfer. It's not really all that well positioned. The pack is way out of position. It's all the way over here. Possibly thinking of baiting the Sherman into it with his 222 should the Sherman decide to chase. But it looks like it's not going to do that, so... Actually, getting a little bit exposed to this AT gun here. Gets shot. Its acceleration wasn't great there. It might get taken out? No. Made it into the fog. I think if he had used attack ground layer, it's possible that he could have taken it out, but maybe he was blocked by the wall. Also, the terrain certainly doesn't make it particularly likely to connect. Panzer Grenadiers moving up, taking shots with their Panzer Shreks. Shock troops finally making it back to the field though. Looks like this gun will make it clear. Pulling back to the ambulance for healing and reinforcement. Maxim machine gun suppresses the Panzer Grenadiers. Second Panzer Grenadier. Oh geez, what a terrible retreat path there. If those shock troops chase, it could get wiped. He didn't really block their pathing with his blob as well as he could have, and unfortunately they are going to get away. Soviet mortars falling on the Axis infantry formations here. Artillery getting called in as well. It's not American, it is probably an incendiary barrage then. Yes, it is. American still hasn't chosen a doctrine. Heavy damage going in on that Volksgrenadier squad. Everything else being forced to make a full retreat. Very close to getting wiped with this Volksgrenadier squad here, but they do round the corner and the shock troops will be forced to retreat, unfortunately. So no full squads down. Pack also finally making its way to the center here. That's actually a second pack. This one's still over here. Maxim's moving up. Nice spread. Protecting two separate areas here, although they're awfully clumped, leaving themselves quite vulnerable to mortar fire. Pinning those Obersoldaten down.
German forces tracking on 300 points.
Lieutenant trying to make his way across the flank, but we have a Panther hitting the field. And that's going to be very dangerous for the Shermans. Sherman's also sitting in pack fire. Oh, is a little late to react to that. He will make it clear though, just in time. Now that there's a Panther on the field, those Shermans are not going to have the same punch that they could have here in the center, although honestly they haven't been used in the center much at all, instead using to harass flanks. And we will actually note 3 fuel caches going down by the American. American falling now at the 18-minute mark into more of a supporting role, filling the ranks with fuel caches and 1 machine gun, although he still has plenty of infantry with no upgrades, though, we will note, which I certainly don't blame him for. Those upgrades are pretty bad on American infantry now. It's basically a waste of munitions. With that being said, he does need to spend his munitions on something. At 8 command points, I'm really surprised not to see a doctrine chosen. I wonder what, if he just hasn't decided if he wants a Priest or a P-47, I guess, are the two big things that he could potentially be going for at this point, and I guess he just doesn't know which one's more important. P-47 certainly would be appealing against things like this Panther. Priest certainly would be appealing against things like this giant clumped infantry formation. So we'll see what he decides to do. We do have 2 Shermans on the field, so... Oh, nice grenade! Perfectly positioned to finish off that squad. That one not so good. Does 0 damage. Lieutenant taking heavy damage, forced to retreat. Mortars falling, dealing heavy damage to these American riflemen. That squad will be forced back. Shock troops moving up. This is just a massive charge of infantry by the Allies, just hurling themselves into those Axis machine guns. Meanwhile, a moderate attempt to flank over here. We do have them 50 cal being caught really out of position though, and I'm not sure Dr. Destynova is paying any attention because it looks like he may be microing his tanks over here, but he's driving right into a pack. Oh no, and his pathing is all messed up. And there goes a Sherman. I'm not sure what he was thinking there. It looks like he's going to continue charging forward though, attempting to flank that pack. It looks like Symbiosis isn't even watching anything that's happening over here though, because he's too busy killing the 50 cal and probably also wiping this Rifleman squad. So both of these players are watching the opposite side of the map and letting all of their units get killed. Because they're too busy microing the other side and the middle. That Rifleman squad about to get wiped as well. No, there it goes. Soviet team weapons also moving up. And doing what they can. Some Axis forces being forced back to the medic truck to heal up. That machine gun came dangerously close to getting cleared, but it's still kicking. It's actually, the gun itself still has most of its health, and it is very close to hitting Vet 3, which is going to make it a nightmare to deal with. Actually, I have a KV-8 on the field, but it looks like it took a pretty nasty burst from those Panzerschreck squads. Meanwhile, some American infantry will be reinforcing over here. The Americans have successfully stolen the pack that was over here. Looks like they did not steal the armored car, or the utility car, or the scout car that was over there on the right. Instead, they opted to destroy it. And it looks like the Panzer Grenadiers are going to make a hasty retreat as well. If we take a look at the victory points, we will see Allies have a bit of an advantage, but now that things are getting very back and forth here in the middle, the game's going to slow to a crawl. Smoke grenade going out on that now Vet 3 machine gun. Riflemen doing what very little they can at this point. Very, very difficult for them to contend with Obersoldaten and the like. Even at Vet 3, they're basically useless at this point in the game for anything other than screening troops. Maxim hits Vet 3, but it needs to pull back from those mortar fire and assault infantry here. Ambulance is also oddly far forward, somewhat vulnerable here, but fortunately the Sherman moves up to screen. And will draw fire from the Panther. Shock troops moving up as well, pushing back those Volksgrenadiers. The Sherman is going to get pushed back by the Panther there. We actually have assault artillery falling, it looks like, on this sector. So that is break production, I believe, from RunToTheSun. Yes, it is. Which I guess we knew, because he's had a Sturmoffizier on the field for quite some time. But no Panzer Fusiliers, interestingly enough. Tiger hitting the field from Symbiosis, so that's going to be Spearhead Doctrine. He has been making use of the recon run as well, but no mortar half-tracks, just standard mortars, and they've certainly been pulling their weight, although he actually only has one at the moment. In fact, the Allied mortar may be a stolen German mortar? No, that's a Soviet mortar, so I'm not sure whatever happened to the second Axis mortar. I guess it just got destroyed. KV-8's taking some pretty heavy damage. It really needs to pull back for repairs. Heavy damage going out on the Panther there. Axis forces pushing hard now, making it well past the center of victory point and encroaching onto the Allies' fuel. Looks like that American 50 cal is not going to make it. Panzer Grenadiers moving up from the left flank. Some kind of artillery getting called in here. Looks like it's a P-47. So finally the American has chosen airborne. Nice damage there on that Panther. Second P-47 moving in from behind, almost takes it out and clears the mortar in the process there. There's a mortar. Oh, that's what happened to the other mortar. The Overcommando West player crewed it. But it gets cleared out by the P-47, and it looks like those Panzer Grenadiers are also going to get forced to retreat. In fact, it looks like a mass retreat from all of the Axis troops, thanks to good positioning of a Maxim and the shock troops here. But they are baited into the Vet 3 machine gun, and they're going to be forced to retreat as well. And this Tiger is certainly going to be difficult to unseat from its perch over here on the right side. Both P-47 strike actually comes in on it though, dealing pretty good damage to it. Very nice damage. Oh wow. Wow, good thing it moved. Good thing it moved. That plane crash could have been devastating. IS-2's hitting the field now from Sagwa. And it looks like he's going to dive in on that Tiger hard, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to catch up. Looks like he's not going to chase, and instead going to content himself with taking out that machine gun. Jackson and Sherman moving up to support as well. Good use of the P-47 to relieve a little bit of pressure from the Allies and give themselves time to repair, recrew, reinforce. But the Axis have the opportunity to do just the same thing. And I think the next Axis push could be a very decisive one if the Allies don't make a really incredible play. This is a huge force to contend with. Smoke grenades going out. Not sure what that was going to accomplish, so just look at the sheer size of this army. The IS-2 and KV-8 are going to be the real centerpiece of the Allied army here, responsible for soaking up a lot of the damage. Panzer Grenadiers catch that Sherman slightly out of position and get a nice volley off. And it looks like the forces are going to clash again here in the middle. Soviet tanks leading the charge, Allied infantry following behind. But that mortar fire is going to continue to hurt. This Vet 3 has 34 kills. Wow. That is something. And the other mortar also getting recruited here by RunToTheSun. Smoke grenade going out from those shock troops. Not going to charge, instead just trying to take advantage of the smoke to get the victory point captured. RunToTheSun going to counter simply by standing in the capture area as well. Grenade going out on those Volks Grenadiers does nothing, unfortunately. Now those shock troops are going to get cut down by the Tiger. Jackson's moving up to push the Axis armor away. Unfortunately, that pack is positioned quite nicely, and those Jacksons are forced back as well. Conscripts now trying desperately to take the point, but it's just to no avail with those Volksgrenadiers in the capture zone. Huge force of Axis infantry moving up. Nice shot from the IS-2 there. Breaking up their formation. Stuka firing. Oh, this could be devastating. I don't think that they're going to be ready for this. Well, that wasn't, I don't know. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't. Nah, it was pretty bad. That was a pretty nasty super barrage. How many kills was that? 9. Pretty respectable. It wasn't devastating, but it was pretty good. IS-2 doing a good job of forcing infantry back, though. American smoke grenades going out, trying to give the Americans time to capture this point, but they are under heavy mortar fire. One squad down. Lieutenant probably not going to survive this if he stays, and he is forced away. And it looks like assault artillery is being called in on this sector again. Pretty bunched formations here in the center, and the American makes a hasty retreat out of the sector, trying to pull his Jacksons back as well. This gun may get decrewed. Lieutenant squad may get wiped. He neglected to retreat it. It's pretty far from the center of the point, though. He may survive. Ambulance makes it clear, fortunately. The lieutenant does not get caught by a stray shell. That is going to be pushing the Allied forces off the field for some time. Look at the veterans he stacked and RunToTheSun's army. That is going to be so difficult to deal with. Symbiosis, likewise, just has tons of elite troops. And his Tiger, which is already up to 16 kills, going to be Vet 1 soon. Dr. Destynova's infantry forces are basically gone. which tends to happen as Americans. Not much you can do about that. And he's falling, like I said, into a supporting role, spamming fuel caches and Jacksons, trying to hold up the rear with heavy anti-tank long-range firepower, while his Soviet teammate leads the charge with his heavier armor, IS-2. And it looks like we're going to see another IS-2 as soon as he's got the manpower. Very nice use, by the way, of vehicle crews to repair your allies' tank. This is important to remember to do. It can take a Soviet player forever to get an IS-2 repaired, but if you're making a ton of Jacksons at the same time, you're also making a ton of repair squads, so that's good to see. Well played, taking advantage of that synergy. KV-8 takes a nasty volley from those Panzer Shreks and is immediately forced back for repairs. We will note that the Major's retreat point blocks tank pathing, so you need to be cognizant of that when when a teammate of yours is trying to get a tank to safety. Sometimes you may want to consider undoing your retreat point so that you can get clear faster. Squad wipes left and right here. Air assault troops going down. That machine gun not likely to last long. Tiger shot kind of misses there, but all three shots from that Jackson accomplish apparently nothing. No use of attack ground. Here we go though. Jackson's continuing to chase, but if they hit that shoe mine, oh, P-47 detonates the shoe mine, clearing the way for those tanks. That's amazing. Oh, one Jackson gets abandoned by a nicely positioned pack, and that's going to definitely deter any further pushing by those. Meanwhile, in the center, the IS-2 moving up. Nice incendiary barrage, clearing out infantry formations. The Stuka is actually a little bit far forward, maybe even a little vulnerable. No, he does pull it back in time. Some massed anti-tank weapons firing on the IS-2 convince it to retreat, but we will note the center point getting decapped here. And nice harassment by Volksgrenadiers on this point as well. The Major is not going to be enough to push that Volksgrenadier squad back. Stuka barrage takes out those conscripts. Katyusha counter barrage coming in though. But it hits basically nothing. And with that, Destynova and Sagwa surrender. The Axis defense is just too hard to overwhelm, it looks like. And RunToTheSun was actually only 50 fuel away from a Jagdtiger, which would have made any armored push by the Allies basically impossible, as if it wasn't already extraordinarily difficult trying to overwhelm a Tiger and a Panther supported by packs. Pretty typical on this map, I would say. Pretty much what generally happens on MInsk Pocket. So difficult to set up flanks on this map that the Axis defense can be very difficult, if not impossible, really, to overwhelm. But regardless, I think it was well played by both sides. I think the Allies gave it their best shot. I think the odds were certainly stacked against them, though. And Symbiosis and RunToTheSun are, of course, a very good team. If you enjoy the video, you can always send me a cast of your own, and I'm happy to do, or a replay of your own, and I'm happy to do a cast of it for you. Otherwise, thank you for watching.